about the crowds. Well, at this time in the show, we always show you something that's trending on social media. How about this? You couldn't get...
We talk about crowds now. Right now in the show, we always show you something big on social media. Check this out. You could not even get 171,000 views, 9,000 views. Those numbers came from YouTube. They were from 2 press talks before the 2026 Australian Open. The bigger number came from a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines. She lost in the very first round. The smaller number came from the world's #1 player. Her name is Alex Eala. By the end of this video, you will get why the top player walked into Wimbledon this week having to defend herself. Meanwhile, the number 29 seed walked in carrying a whole country on her back. Have you been here since the Miami semifinal? Since the Junior US Open? Since before anyone even knew her name? Then this channel is for you. Hit subscribe. Stand with the Filipino army that called this from day one. You already know the Mallorca story. You already know the rankings. So let's drop all that for now. 5 days before Wimbledon started, Eala won her very first grass court trophy in Birmingham. 2 weeks before that, she beat world #2 Aryna Sabalenka in Berlin and made it all the way to the semifinals. 7 minutes. Yes, absolutely stunning performance from Alexandra Eala.
Just want to quit tennis right now, but we'll see. We'll see in a few days. Hopefully I'll get back on track.
On Saturday, June 27th, she trained 2 hours on the Aryna grass court. Then she walked into Wimbledon as the very first Filipino ever seeded at a Grand Slam. Now let's flip to the other side of the bracket. While Eala spent her week fielding questions about her people, Aryna Sabalenka spent hers defending herself. On June 27th, The Guardian ran an interview with the world #1 under a heavy headline. 3 days before that, Reuters had quoted Sabalenka saying she fell into what she called a deep, dark hole. This came after her tough loss at Roland Garros in the quarterfinal. In her own words, she said this: "British media called her pre-Wimbledon press talk a grilling. Sabalenka has not said one single word in public about Alex Eala or her Filipino fans. And that silence, that is the loudest thing in the whole building." Why? Because while the world #1 got grilled about her own personality, the number 29 seed got asked which Tagalog word she wanted on her trophy. Let's start with a number the BBC confirmed back in January. Eala's press talk at the Australian Open pulled 171,000 views on YouTube. Carlos Alcaraz pulled 29,000. Coco Gauff pulled 29,000. Aryna Sabalenka pulled just 9,000. The most-watched WTA player at the season's first slam was not the world #1. It was an unseeded Filipina who had not won a single match yet in Melbourne. Then came the lines. A BBC tennis reporter in Melbourne described huge crowds of Filipino fans jamming up outside Court 6. That's a small court that fits 1,500 people, but the line stretched hundreds of yards through the grounds. Kathy Long on BBC Radio 5 Live said it straight out loud. "I couldn't believe the queues. Who's on the scheduling team?" The Australian Open even posted a public apology on X. They called it a learning moment. Think about that. A Grand Slam tournament had to publicly admit they underestimated one 20-year-old's pulling power. By March, the All England club got the memo. Eala walked into Wimbledon 2026 as the number 29 seed. She became the first Filipino in 147 years of Grand Slam history to be seeded at a major. This is not just a personal win. This is the biggest, most old-school tennis institution changing its whole structure because of her. Then came Birmingham, June 22, 2026, the Lexus Birmingham Open Final. Eala beat Nicola Bartunkova 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. She won her very first WTA grass court title. She walked up to grab the mic for the trophy speech. She did not thank her academy first. She did not thank her coach first. She turned to the crowd and spoke in Tagalog.
That is the exact line the whole Filipino army has been waiting to hear at this level, right into a championship microphone. That was the moment a group of fans stopped just being the story about a player. They became part of the player's own story. Have you told your friends for 2 years that this one was different, that this was not just hype, but real history? Well, Birmingham was the proof. You were not early, you were right. 2 weeks before that, in Berlin, she wiped out any doubt about her tennis skill. She beat Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, in the round of 16. She beat Elena Svitolina in the quarterfinal. She lost the semifinal to Linda Noskova 6-2, 6-4, and that only took 69 minutes. The crowds stopped cheering for potential. Now they cheered for a real contender who had just knocked out a top 2 player. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, the world number 1 was falling apart in public. Remember the Roland Garros quote? The deep, dark hole? The Guardian story. 2 players heading into the same 2 weeks, one defending her image, one carrying a whole country. When you need real proof that something has shifted in this sport, don't ask a fan, ask Anne Kiatavong. She's the former British number 1 and current captain of the Great Britain Billie Jean King Cup team. She's also a longtime BBC tennis analyst who has watched 2 decades of Grand Slam crowds. When Kiatavong looked at what was happening outside Court 6 in Melbourne, she didn't use soft, polite words. She used pure shock, and she called out the scheduling team directly. That is huge. A former national number 1 saying this on national radio during a Grand Slam. That is not just a random comment. That is a big name in tennis publicly saying the tour has not caught up to the massive crowd that Alex Eala brings. And she is not the only one saying it. Greg Rustetsky, a former US Open finalist and former world number 4 and a Wimbledon regular, has said this fortnight could be Eala's big breakthrough slam. He even pointed to her Filipino fan support as a reason why. When 2 legends from the top 10 era look at the same 20-year-old and land on the same idea, that idea stops being just an opinion. It becomes fact. The Wimbledon draw may have handed Alex Eala the biggest gift of her career. Sabalenka sits in quarter 1. Eala sits in quarter 3, right alongside Iga Swiatek and the returning legend Serena Williams. These 2 women cannot meet before the final. If Eala wins her first match against Renata Zarazua, her round 2 opponent could be Serena Williams herself. This is her runway to greatness. Sabalenka is not losing on the court. She is losing everywhere else. She is being outdrawn on the grounds. She is being outstreamed on YouTube. She is being outqueued by the scheduling office, all because of a player she won't even face unless they both reach the final on Saturday. Now, zoom out even further. Tennis has always built its whole world around Europe and the Anglo-American countries, but the Philippines has 117 million people. Its diaspora in the UK alone is counted in the hundreds of thousands by the British government. A huge chunk of them work inside the NHS, and they have had this Wimbledon marked on their calendar since the draw came out. That is not some small niche group. That is a massive market the WTA has never had to deal with before. So watch what happens next. Wimbledon round 1 against Zarazua, a possible round 2 against Serena Williams, then the US Open Series, then the 2027 Australian Open, where you can bet Melbourne Park will not make the same mistake with Court 6 twice. None of this is some perfect fairy tale, and Eala has never acted like it was. Back in January, in front of those same Melbourne crowds, she lost her Australian Open first-round match to Alicia Parks, even after winning the first set 6-0. She lost early at Roland Garros. She lost early at Bad Homburg just last week. When ABS-CBN asked her about that Bad Homburg loss on June 26th, she did not blame the court, the schedule, or the pressure. She simply said, "I think the conditions were difficult for me today, so I did the best I could with, what I had." 5 days later, she was holding up the Birmingham trophy. 971,000. A massive crowd jammed outside Court 6, a trophy speech spoken in Tagalog, a top 2 player knocked out in Berlin, the very first seeded Filipino in Grand Slam history, a world number 1 walking into Wimbledon defending a headline in a national paper, and a number 29 seed walking in defending nothing at all, just carrying her whole country on her back. Aryna Sabalenka is the best women's tennis player alive today. Alex Eala is the loudest. And at this Wimbledon, with a draw that keeps them apart until the final Saturday, loudest is the one thing nobody on tour has figured out how to handle. So here's a question for you to argue about in the comments. Does Alex Eala make it to the second week at SW19? And if she does, who becomes the bigger story when the final weekend hits? Is it the world number 1 defending her rank, or is it the number 29 seed with a whole country marching right behind her? Have you been in this corner since the Miami semifinal, since the Junior US Open, since before anyone knew how to spell her name? Then this channel is built just for you. We are the room where the people who saw it first talk to each other, match by match, all the way through Wimbledon and into the US Open swing. Subscribe now. Stand with the rest of the Filipino army that has been right about this from the very start.